But in reality, Hannah, didn't we all kind of just drop out of a void?
Not today. We're not doing this today.
Well, Hannah, are you comfy?
I'm super comfy. This is really nice having the couch. I'll lay
See?
back, got the
Yeah.
microphone right in my face, and I'm not like straining to reach it.
Oh, it's just, it's beautiful.
This is really good.
Best purchase ever.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Well, I think it's about time to welcome you, I, and everyone to episode 21.
Woohoo! Here we are.
Here we is, and we is feeling good. It's a pretty nice day out today. Mm-hmm. Studio's looking more like a studio, I would say.
Yeah.
It's looking really good.
The couch has done a lot for the sound dampening.
Oh yeah, told ya. Like,
Very nice.
I can't wait to get some more. Did you bring that foam by chance?
I do have some of the foam in my car,
Okay.
and then I need to get that tapestry from my parents' house, and I think we could put it on that wall.
Yeah. So, Hannah, got anything fun, interesting, wacky?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I have a ghost story.
Ghost story, okay.
So Austin's actually like he hasn't heard it.
I've heard it, but I will say I don't remember all the details, so there will be some genuine reaction.
Yeah, so personal ghost story. It's a new one. I was dog sitting for my friend Hannah. And
Surprise.
yes, she lives in an old farmhouse on what I can only assume is old farmland.
The amount of gasps that just happened,
Yeah,
because they know.
they know. So I asked her when she was just like showing me around the house, I was like, is your house haunted? You have to tell me. She was like, I don't think so. I haven't had anything weird happen. So I was like, okay, it's not haunted. So like the second day I'm getting back up there after work and I'm just driving. There's like a long kind of dirt drive that goes like through the center of the land to get to her house. So I'm going down that and I'm doing my medium thing. And
As Hannah does.
I came to the conclusion that the house itself wasn't haunted, but the land was. And I was driving, I was like, there's something over there. I was like, I'm not going to think too much on it because I have to bring the dogs outside at night.
Oh, no.
And I'm guessing something just wandered in with me. Because that night I was turning the lights off downstairs to go upstairs and go to bed. And as I flicked off the last main light, I heard a man singing.
Nope. Yep, I forgot about that.
Yep, it was really clear. I don't know what he was singing. I couldn't make out the words, but the sound of it was very clear.
I don't like that.
So I called Christian before I even started going upstairs. And I was like, hey, babe, you got to stay on the phone with me until I fall asleep. I just heard a ghost. No, I said, I just heard a man singing. And so he was like, wait, okay, hold on.
Oh,
Do you think it's a ghost? Let's start there. I was like, yes, 100% a ghost. TV was off. Computer was off. Yeah. So I'm laying there. I'm almost asleep. And I feel a tug on the blankets.
yeah.
Dogs are in their kennels. There's no other animals. I'm the only one there. Like, yanked them back and...
Just, no.
We're not going to do that. And decided not to tell Christian about it because I didn't want to acknowledge it out loud. I was like, we're just pretend it didn't happen and hope it doesn't happen again. So I asked the ghost politely. I was like, I really need to go to sleep. Please leave me alone. So, yeah, that was it. That was my ghost story. I was like, wow, that's great. I had like 3 more nights there after that.
That was your first night?
That was my second night.
Second night. Mm-hmm. First night was a breeze. Second night's like, fuck you.
Yep. It was super fun.
Oh, all right.
Do you have anything, Austin?
You know, not this week.
Well, all right, cool.
Yeah, got yours.
Yeah. So, Austin's going to go first this week, since he is wrapping up the second part of John Wayne Gacy. So,
Sure am.
why don't you tell us kind of what you're going to do and get into it?
All right. So I ended last week kind of on the clowns. It was one of his torture victims that he dressed up as Pogo the Clown. So we're going to start off the episode today with the clowns and getting into his murders, how he did them, and the days leading up to his arrest. And some I forgot to mention, we'll be diving into 2 or 3 of the murders as well.
So I really want you to mention your boss walking in on you while you're doing your research. Tell them specifically what you've been looking at with this story. When he walks in and he walks up behind you. To get into Austin's office, you have to walk up behind him.
Literally, everyone can see my computer screen at all times.
If I ever deliver to his work, I sneak up on him and I flick him on the back of the head.
She sure fucking does, and I sure fucking hate it. I am glad she hasn't delivered in quite some time. So, what would usually happen is I have a little bit of downtime. We'll do some podcast work, all right? So, one instance was actually a previous episode of The Pizza Bomber. And it was the collar that the bomb was attached to that I was looking at just right up on my screen. I remember looking over, my boss looking at the screen, and he just puts his head down and just walks out. Now the next one was John Wayne Gacy, and I'm looking at John Wayne Gacy's paintings.
Tell us about the paintings real quick.
The paintings are... There's something else. Okay, so he paints himself, the clown, and I will go over this in the story, as Patches and Pogo. He also does, like, John Dillinger, and he likes to paint, like, birds and everything. Mm-hmm. And then there's one particular one. It's a skull, and the skull is made out of penises.
You did not tell me about that. Oh, my God.
This is why I wanted to see that reaction. So here's the thing. If any of you know what the painting I am talking about is, it looks like a skull from a distance and you can't make out the penises very well until you get like close up because the Hannah's looking it up right now. Let's just take
Just go ahead, keep talking. I gotta turn my computer on.
Okay. So yeah, it's a skull that's made out of penises, and from a distance you really can't tell. It just looks like there's a bunch of lines and everything.
Of course.
But as soon as you get up on it, not figuratively, not literally.
Bad choice of words.
Bad choice of words. When you get close to the painting, you see that the penises will make the eyes, the nose, just the entire shape, and you see the balls and everything, and like... And to this day, I still don't know if my boss was too close or not close enough to see what he may or may not have seen.
See, last night you told me that it was the clown picture that was a
distraction.
Oh, okay. Is it the one with the hat?
Which one are you looking at? No. Just, did you type in Gacy skull penis?
I did not want to search skull penis.
Do it. You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
I did John Wayne Gacy's skull painting.
No. Or you could do John Wayne Gacy's artwork. That might come up.
Is it this one?
No. It's this one right here. Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, it's not just penises.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. It's much worse. Look closely. What do you see? It's an orgy happening. It's not just penises.
Oh, my God. You're right.
I didn't even realize that. I just saw
There's butts and everything.
Yeah, there's boobs.
It's creative.
Very
I'll
creative.
give him that. Wow.
And
I like the one little penis that's right in the center.
Well, do you see the man?
Yeah.
Yeah. The man is the bridge of the nose, and his penis is like the tip of the nose.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That sure is something.
Oh, tell me, is that a missionary butt or vagina at the bottom of his chin? Or its chin?
It's either. It's whatever you want it to be, Austin.
I'm like, I want your opinion.
It's whatever you want it to be.
I don't want it to be anything. Anyways, so in late 1975, Gacy joined the Jolly Joker Clown Club. First time I actually got to say that without messing it up, so I'm proud of myself.
Congrats.
After joining, he created 2 of his own characters, as previously mentioned, the first being Pogo the Clown. Gacy would describe this character as a happy clown. The second is Patches the Clown. Gacy would go on to describe this as a more serious or sad character clown.
Okay.
Gacy even designed his own makeup and costume for his characters and would regularly volunteer for public service events, such as political functions, charitable events, and even children's hospitals. He would earn money with some of these events, but would make the most of his money being a private clown for parties, usually for children. Yeah. I mean, at the time, no one knew.
No, I know.
But in hindsight, it's like,
is she?
Gacy stated in an interview once saying, acting as a clown would allow himself to regress into childhood. I mean, that would make a lot of sense given how abused he was. Mm-hmm. Even though it is true Gacy dressed up as a clown, there is no evidence that Gacy killed while dressed as one of his characters. Just want to put that out there as well.
Well, I guess that's a plus side.
Because there's a lot of people out there that say, like, yep, he killed as a clown. No, it's not. He never killed as a clown. He did torture while as a clown, but he never killed as a clown. I mean, not to say it's much better,
that's not better at all.
I'm not trying to say it's better. I'm just saying that's what actually happened.
Oh, God.
So, how would Gacy choose his victims? His victims would be random individuals he would lure from the Chicago bus station or while driving around in his work truck. He would pick up guys looking for a job usually, or hitchhikers. And then he would befriend them by offering them drinks or drugs, and sometimes even money for sex. Sometimes it would just be straight up prostitution or lying and pretending to be a researcher for homosexuality. And that's where the money would come in. He would pay these men to have research purposes sex. Mm-hmm.
No. Oh, God, that's so awful.
But those weren't the only lies Gacy would tell to his victims to come with him. He conned many guys into thinking he was a cop. Gacy had a handful of sheriff's badges and spotlights on his black Oldsmobile, so it looked pretty much like a cop car during the 1970s.
Where is he getting sheriff badges?
From the looks of it, some of them look like costume ones, but others look like he maybe bought them off somebody. I'm not 100% sure. That was never really been talked about. But some of them did look like costume sheriff's badges. He had like 7 or 8 of them. Gacy then would lure men back to his house in one way, shape, or form and murder them. Gacy even stated on more than one occasion he would kill more than one individual a night, and he would call it doubles.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew. Mm-hmm. Like it's a shift.
Like he says he would. It's not I got doubles. I did doubles. No, it's just doubles.
Gross.
Mm-hmm. So remember when Gacy would use his handcuffs during his assaults in the previous episode?
Unfortunately.
Well, it continued into his murders.
Ooh.
Once he lured his victims into his home, and he would show them a good time and gain their trust. Once Gacy knew he had their trust, he would show them a magic trick.
No, gross. No, I don't like don't like that one bit.
Yeah, you're not going to like where this is going. The trick was he would have his hands cuffed behind his back with the help of his victim, and he would magically escape out of them. And sorry to ruin the magic for some of you out there, but he just used a spare key that was in one of his back pockets.
Wow, quite the illusionist.
Right. This trick was also a part of his clown routine, regularly.
Ooh.
I just want a little fair warning. The next part is going to get a little graphic, so you have all been warned. After showing the trick to his victim, Gacy would offer to show him how the trick is done, and he would perform it on them. And unfortunately, they all said yes.
No.
Once handcuffed behind their back, Gacy would proceed to put them on their back and straddle their chests, and would usually force them to perform oral sex on him. Gacy then would proceed to torture his victims, which included cigar burns, making them imitate a horse as Gacy would ride on their backs, and even sometimes making them wear makeshift reins.
That's a special kind of fucked up.
Yeah, right?
Woof. Okay.
To clarify, those are nervous laughters.
Yeah.
After doing this for quite some time, Gacy would then proceed to violate his victims with objects such as dildos and prescription bottles.
Oh.
And even shoving cloth rags down their throats. Not just in their mouths, like whole finger down.
Gross.
Mm-hmm. When Gacy wanted his victims immobilized, he would chain their ankles to a 2x4. He drilled holes in both ends of them, and basically your legs are spread as far as your shoulders width apart, chained.
Awful.
Gacy was also known to taunt his victims while they endured the abuse. He also partly drowned several of his victims in his bathtub before reviving them back to life.
Jesus.
Gacy would usually end his abuse by placing a rope tourniquet around their neck and progressively making it tighter. He would often refer to this as the rope trick or the last trick to his victims.
I don't like your tricks. I don't like them.
Gacy did state in an interview that his victims would usually convulse for an hour or two before finally dying.
Yeah.
Gacy goes on to say that several of his victims died by asphyxiation from the rags being literally in their throat.
That is so awful.
I can't think of any worse way to die.
It's up there. It's definitely up there.
So now we're going to get into some of the murders that he committed that he actively talked about. The first being Timothy McCoy. On January 3rd, 1972, in the early morning, Gacy decided to drive around to the Civic Center to view the ice sculptures, then made his way to the Greyhound bus station. This is where Gacy met 16-year-old Timothy McCoy. Gacy was able to lure Timothy into his car, and Gacy said that he would show Timothy around Chicago, as Timothy didn't have to be back to the bus station until noon the very next day. Timothy and Gacy spent the day touring Chicago. Timothy did spend the night at Gacy's home, and as Gacy was sleeping, he was awoke to find Timothy standing in his bedroom doorway, holding a knife. Gacy jumped from his bed, and Timothy raised his arms in surrender, but in doing so, he accidentally cut Gacy's forearm. They struggled for a bit, kicking and hitting each other, till Gacy grabbed Timothy and pulled him down to the ground.
Wait, so Timothy had the knife?
Timothy had the knife.
What the fuck was he up to?
Oh, you'll find out.
Okay.
So after Gacy got Timothy down to the ground, he stabbed him repeatedly in the chest. Gacy went to go wash the knife off at the bathroom once Timothy was dead. Then he went to the kitchen and saw that Timothy had made an entire breakfast. And Timothy went to wake Gacy for breakfast, and he still had the knife in hand. After he felt totally drained, but says listening to the gurgle and gasping heard gave Gacy a mind-numbing orgasm. Gacy says, "This is when I realized death was the ultimate thrill." So after this poor child made Gacy an entire breakfast, went to go wake him up, Gacy kills them. This is where it started.
It's going to be a long episode.
It is.
How old was he?
Timothy was 16 at the time.
How old was Gacy?
Gacy in 1972 was in his 40s, I believe.
Ugh.
Similar murders to Timothy McCoy are 18-year-old Daryl Sampson, 15-year-old Randall Reffett, 14 Samuel Stapleton, 17 Michael Bonin, 16 William Carroll, 16-year-old James Hackinson, which I actually found out he was a St. Paul, or he was from St. Paul.
Oh.
17-year-old Rick Johnston, 16-year-old Kenneth Parker, 14-year-old Michael Marino, 19-year-old William Bundy, 21-year-old Francis Alexander, and 17-year-old Gregory Godzik.
They're just all babies.
They are. His youngest is 14 and his oldest was 21.
Oh my god, they're all babies.
The second murder happened 2 years later in 1974, once again luring his victim into his home, into Gacy's home, where Gacy strangled him, placed his victim in the bedroom closet, and 24 hours later, Gacy noticed the body started leaking fluid while in the closet. After this, Gacy would make a habit of stuffing his victims' underwear and or socks in their mouths so their bodies wouldn't leak. In his second murder, this victim has yet to be identified.
Can I sidebar for a fun fact?
Yes, you can.
Dark fun fact.
Let's hear it.
When bodies are embalmed,
Mm-hmm.
they usually get plugs put in a lot of places so
Oh,
that
yeah.
they don't leak fluids.
Mm-hmm. That I did know.
That's just... It's something.
It's something, all right.
It's something. All right, please continue.
Are you sure?
We're this far into it, so we might as well finish it.
The next murder is John Bukovic. This one happened on July 1975 when John disappeared. He was 18 years old at the time. He was an employee of Gacy's. A few days after John went missing, John's father called Gacy asking if he knew where his son was, because John never came home. Gacy told him that John did come to his home looking for overdue pay. Gacy was sorry that his son had run away before hanging up the phone immediately. Gacy was questioned by police, being that he was John's employer. Gacy stated John and his two friends came to the house looking for the overdue pay. They came to a compromise and they left. The police believed the story, and Gacy wasn't looked into again, despite the parents of John calling police repeatedly to investigate Gacy for 3 years.
My God.
Similar murders to John: 19-year-old John Zink, 20-year-old John Prestige, 18-year-old Robert Gilroy, 19-year-old John Mowry, 21-year-old Russell Nelson, 16-year-old Robert Winch, 20-year-old Tommy Bowling, 19-year-old David Talsma, and 19-year-old William Kindred. And now, I want to point out, the bulk of his murders took place between 1976 and 1978. This happened a month right after his divorce was finalized in 1976, and Gacy called this his cruising years.
No.
Shortly after his divorce, neighbors started noticing Gacy started acting very strangely. They would see many young men at his home at random times, seeing his car arrive early and leave really late. One neighbor recalled for several years, her and her son would wake up in the early morning to either shouting, screaming, and or crying, but reportedly never called it into police about what she and her son had heard.
Wait, okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
So you see that there are a lot of young boys coming and going, mostly just showing up and not leaving. And you regularly wake up hearing screaming and crying and all sorts of noises, and you don't call the police?
Apparently.
I mean, I get wanting to avoid conflict, but come on. Something's going on. A lot of something.
A lot of something.
Oh my God.
A little, I wouldn't say a fun fact, but a fact about Gacy is he would roughly kill someone almost once a month after his divorce. Let's fast forward to 1979 in December. This is when Gacy abducted 19-year-old Robert Donnelly. This was at gunpoint at the Greyhound bus station. Gacy drove him back to his place. Once back at Gacy's place, his ritual would begin. He proceeded to get Robert into handcuffs and, just a fair warning, rape, torture, and drowned Robert repeatedly.
There it is.
All while making comments like, "Aren't we playing fun games tonight?"
No.
Robert recalls being in so much pain, he looks at Gacy and asks, "Please kill me." Gacy responded with, "I'm getting around to it."
Oh my God!
After several hours of abuse, Gacy drove Robert away from his home, pushed him out of his car, and said, "If you go to the police, they will not believe you." But on January 6, 1978, police paid Gacy a visit.
Bold of him. Very bold of him.
Very.
I mean, all of this is bold of him, but that was very bold.
I mean, a lot of serial killers think they can just get away with anything.
Well, it's a very common thing that after so
everybody.
long, they're like,
Right.
they start getting sloppy because they keep getting away with it.
Mm-hmm.
They get too cocky about it.
I can't wait to get into the end of Gacy's killings. It's going to be good. It's going to be a fucking roller coaster, though.
Oh, like it hasn't been already.
I'm sorry. This is pretty light compared to what we're going to get into.
I'm not surprised one bit.
So on January 6, 1978, police paid Gacy a visit. They were investigating the claims Robert was making against Gacy. Gacy insisted that everything was very consensual and it was a, quote, sex slave relationship. And unfortunately, police believed Gacy and no charges were filed.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I was watching a documentary, and a lot of the times in the 1970s, if it was a quote-unquote lover's quarrel between two men, police wanted nothing to do with it.
Of course. Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, but here's where we get into it. Gacy's last murder is the murder of his downfall. So, on December 11th, 1978, Robert Pest was working at Nissen Pharmacy, where he was a part-time stock boy. Gacy made a visit in and started talking to Robert about a job opportunity. They walked outside to talk more. And Kim Byers, who was a cashier for the store and a friend of Robert's, saw him walk out with Gacy, and then the store got busy. Once it slowed down about after 10-15 minutes, she looked up and saw Robert and Gacy were nowhere to be seen. Thinking Robert may have gone back into the back of the store, she never saw him again. A little while later, Robert's mom came to pick him up. When asked where he was, no one knew where Robert had gone. Little did they know, Robert was being tortured, bound, and gagged at this time. Gacy recalls placing a rope tightly around Robert's neck, as Robert was scared and crying. Before Gacy could finish his rope trick, he gets a phone call from a business partner. When Gacy returned, Robert was dead on the floor. This is the murder that sets everything into motion.
All right. Let's go.
So, on December 12th, the next day after, Robert Pest's family hadn't seen or heard from their son, so they filed a missing persons report. Lieutenant Joseph Konziak took the case, one reason being he had a son around Robert's age. After interviewing everyone at the pharmacy where Robert was last seen, Gacy became suspect number 1. Joseph performed a routine criminal background check on Gacy and found his prison sentence from Iowa, where he sodomized a 15-year-old boy. So Joseph and 2 other officers went to Gacy's house. When interviewed, Gacy told them he had asked the youth at the pharmacy if there were any remodeling material behind the store, since if you remember from last episode, one of main Gacy's contracts is remodeling pharmacies.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he also states that he did not offer a job to Robert. Gacy also said he went back around 8 p.m. to the pharmacy to grab his appointment book he left. When employees were asked about Gacy coming back for the book later, all said that they never happened and Gacy never came into the store again. Gacy promised to come down to the station later that evening because his uncle had died and he had to get some stuff done for the funeral. So when police asked how soon Gacy thought he could get down to the station, Gacy replied with, "You guys are very rude. Don't you have any respect for the dead?" and slams the door in their face.
Okay, Karen.
Around 3:20 a.m. the following morning, Gacy arrives at the station covered in mud. And he's asking for Lieutenant Joseph. And when told he wasn't there, Gacy left and said he'll be back. The next day, when Gacy came back to the station, he was interviewed. But it's a little odd. Why was he covered in mud? And at 3:20 in the morning?
Why do I have a feeling you're about to tell me?
Oh, no, it's going to be a bit still.
Okay, great.
Just want that in the back of your head.
Okay.
Detectives requested Gacy make a written statement of his accounts on December 11th and 12th. Lieutenant Joseph and other detectives agreed that they had enough probable cause to issue a search warrant of Gacy's home. Police suspected Gacy might be holding Robert at his home. So on December 13th, the very next day, police went to Gacy's home. The warrant search uncovered some very interesting items. A handful of police badges, a 6mm pistol, syringes and hypodermic needles, handcuffs, several books on same-gender attraction and pedestry. I think I'm saying pedestry or something like that. Basically, the attraction to children.
Pedophilia.
Yeah. I was trying to do the more accurate word for it, but I can't say it. So, pedophilia. And with one book titled Pretty Boys Must Die. Also found were porno films of mostly of the gay variety, capsules of amyl nitrate. This would be used for enhancing sexual experiences. A 18-inch dildo. God, Hannah's face. Oh, I should have got that on tape.
Oh my god.
The 39-inch 2x4 with holes cut into each end, bottles of Valium and atropine for various medical issues Gacy had, several random driver's license, a hooded parka, underwear that would be clearly too small for Gacy, a class ring with the initials JAS, a receipt for a photo pack from the pharmacy of Neeson's, and 36 inches of nylon rope. Even with all these items found at Gacy's, he had a story for every single one of them.
I bet he did.
With All with alibis and no bodies, no arrests or charges could be made against Gacy at the time. But something was telling them that Gacy had something to do with it.
Just something.
Just something.
Just a little something.
So they decided to do a ton of surveillance on Gacy. Investigators followed Gacy wherever he went. And I mean anywhere. Work, home, bars, restaurant, you name it. They weren't going to let Gacy out of their sights. Over the next couple days, Gacy was getting really friendly with the investigators. He would invite them to join him for meals at restaurants or even drinks at a bar. Sometimes even inviting him into his home to have drinks. When questioned about Robert Peast and his disappearance, Gacy would always deny having any involvement. Gacy was starting to get fed up with these investigators. Gacy would say, "Oh, you're just trying to harass me because of my political connections or my recreational drug use." Gacy also knew they would never arrest him for anything trivial like that. So sometimes while driving, Gacy would ignore all traffic laws. Gacy would take investigators on high-speed chases sometimes and would lose them on more than one occasion. Investigators were able to search Gacy's vehicle at one point, and they found bits of fiber that resembled human hair. But the investigators would never be able to get a DNA test done, since DNA tests wouldn't be invented until 1986.
Of course.
Investigators then brought in search dogs, used clothing Robert would have worn, with Robert's scent on it. After the dogs performed their search, one of the handlers informed the detectives that one of their dogs laid down in the passenger seat of Gacy's vehicles. This is referred to as the death reaction, indicating Robert's body had been in the vehicle. On December 18th, Gacy had invited the investigators into the diner for breakfast with him. Gacy discussed what he would normally discuss with the investigators: his business, his marriage, and his clown performances. But he did say one thing that has stuck with investigators. Gacy's remark was, clowns can get away with murder.
I can see that.
Something else investigators noticed was Gacy's appearance. Gacy was displaying signs of stress and strain, most likely from the constant surveillance. He was unshaven, looked tired and anxious, and he was drinking heavily. That same day, Gacy drove to his lawyer's house, prepared a civil suit against Des Plaines Police Department and investigators. During this time, investigators went to talk with Kim Byers, who was the cashier at Nissan's Pharmacy, to ask about the photo receipt that they found at Gacy's home. They showed her a picture, and Kim informed them that she put that receipt in the pocket of the coat she was wearing. That coat belonged to Robert Pest. She asked to borrow it because it was super cold at the register the day Robert went missing. It's pretty lucky right there.
Yeah, that's... wow.
With all this evidence piling up against Gacy, detectives went for a second search warrant of his home. And on December 19th, 1978, detectives put in for that search warrant. That same day, Gacy's civil suit was filed against the Des Plaines Police Department, and the hearing was scheduled for December 22nd that same year. So things are starting to get in motion. But on the afternoon of December 19th, detectives went back to Gacy's home, and Gacy invited him in. While inside Gacy's home, the detectives noticed a smell.
It's always a smell. It's a smelly smell. Smelly smell. That's smelly.
A smell no detective could ever know to be anything else but the smell of a corpse.
Yeah.
The detectives didn't notice the smell last time they were in Gacy's home due to it being quite colder.
Huh?
And on December 20th, 2 former employees of Gacy's were interviewed. They both stated Gacy would have them go down into the crawl space of his home and dig in very specific spots. Gacy claimed...
I would be quitting my job so quick.
Hey, he's paying them.
I don't care. I'm not digging graves even in this economy, I'm not digging graves. They're like, yeah.
No one said graves, Hannah.
I know, but
I know you know, but...
I know,
everyone's figured it out, but no.
Go dig a little hole.
You gotta think. Because
what were the measurements he gave them?
my God, Hannah. I'm gonna get into why they did it and everything. Okay. You're jumping ahead.
Got a lot of questions.
I know they're gonna be answered here in the next couple points.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Gacy claims digging in these specific spots
Graves.
were.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
I saw you just. Okay, so Gacy claimed that he had them dig in these very specific spots because these were for new drainage pipes. But the dimensions Gacy gave. See, this is why I was like.
What are the dimensions, Austin?
The dimensions Gacy wanted the trenches for the pipes were odd. They were 2 feet wide by 6 feet long by 2 feet deep.
Stop it!
I hate that you we're measurements now.
Well, because I'm it's a crawl space, so there's probably only so much room, so he's probably going to want to utilize that room pretty well. Oh my God.
I even have in parentheses here, measurements for size of graves. So on the evening of December 20th, Gacy drove to his lawyer's office for a meeting. Gacy's lawyer stated that Gacy had an obsession with his civil suit. Basically being, I hate these guys, I don't want them to be surveilling me anymore, this is harassment, yada, yada, yada. But when Gacy arrived at the office, he looked anxious and disheveled, completely 180 from what his lawyers used to seeing him as. As soon as he got into his office, Gacy asked for a drink and continued to drink 2 glasses of whiskey. At this time, his lawyer still believes Gacy's innocent, so let's just remember that. Gacy sat for a long time before his lawyer said, "You said you had something new to tell me, something important."
So why are we here?
So yeah, exactly. Come on. Gacy proceeds to pick up a newspaper, points to the front page with the coverage of Robert Pest. "This boy is dead. He is dead. He's in the river." Just flat out.
I guess that's one way to say it.
Yep. Gacy proceeded to give this big ramble of the murders he committed, and this went on into the early hours of the morning. Gacy goes on to say, "I have been the judge, jury, and executioner of many, many, many people, and I now want that to be the same for myself."
Oh, so he, wanted to be prosecuted for it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That's what he's saying right now. And confessed to murdering at least 30 victims, which most of them were buried in his crawl space. Gacy goes on to say, "When I ran out of room in the crawl space, I've thrown at least 5 bodies into the river." Gacy claims all his victims were prostitutes, hustlers, and liars, adding he would awake to find dead, strangled kids like he was coming out of a daze.
Oh.
Or he'd wake up in the morning and there was one of his victims on the floor because he blacked out.
Did he really, though?
He also said that he believed these bodies were his property. And that's why he buried them in this crawl space.
Gross.
Given how much Gacy had drank, he fell asleep during the middle of his ramble. When he finally awoke, he was met with his lawyer asking him, why did you kill all those boys? And Gacy dismissed that he even confessed everything last night. It never happened.
Jesus.
Gacy left his lawyer's office to tend to his business. Gacy recalls his last day as a free man being hazy. Still being followed by detectives, Gacy rushes to a gas station. When the gas station attendant comes out to pump the fuel, Gacy handed him a small bag of cannabis, stating, "The end is coming for me. These guys are going to kill me," and then drove off fast.
Would you take that bag of weed if you had no idea what was going on? Would you take that bag of weed if somebody said something like that to you and handed it to you?
I mean, I'd probably hold on to it because it sounds like he drove away pretty quick and I wouldn't have time to be like, fuck this. But luckily, the attendant handed it straight to the detectives who came up to him and told them what Gacy had just told the attendant.
Ooh.
Gacy was driving very erratically, and when detectives got close to his vehicle on the freeway, Gacy could be seen praying with a rosary in his hand. The investigators were afraid Gacy would commit suicide or injure someone else. So they arrested him on possession and distribution charges of a controlled substance, just to hold him into custody. And on the evening of December 21st, the second search warrant was issued to Gacy's house for the bodies. One of the detectives remembers getting handed the warrant and the judge looking him in the eyes and saying, "Go get that son of a bitch." Once police and Gacy were at his house, the police informed Gacy their intentions on searching the crawl space for Robert Pest's body. Gacy stated you won't find his body there because he isn't buried there, but did confess to killing a teen in self-defense, and he is buried under the garage. Police still wanted to search the crawl space first, since it would be the easiest to access at the time. They found out that Gacy had unplugged the sump pump and the crawl space was just flooded with water. Luckily, they found where the sump pump was plugged it back in, waited for the water to drain fully. So, here's where it gets interesting. Evidence tech, so basically a crime scene tech, Daniel Genty went into the 28 by 38 foot crawl space, and there was probably only 3, maybe 4 feet from the ground to, crawled to the southwest corner and started digging. And within minutes, he uncovered flesh and a human arm bone. Daniel then shouted up to the anxiously awaited officers and crime scene detectives that he had found human remains, and adding, "I think this place is full of kids."
Oh, God.
The bones were small. With this, Gacy could finally be properly charged with murder, and during this time, Daniel dug up a patella in the northeast corner and 2 leg bones in the southeast corner. So far, these parts were too decomposed to be Robert Pest's body. With almost every shovelful, they would unearth more bones and body parts. This would confirm the scale of the murders, confirming that he has killed at least 30 people.
Oh my God.
Police informed Gacy of human remains found, and Gacy told officers that he wanted to clear the air. And on the morning...
Let me just get this straightened out.
Right?
Let's just get one thing clear here.
So on the morning of December 22nd, Gacy provided a formal statement in which he confessed to murdering approximately 30 young males, all who entered his house willingly. Because that will lessen your sentence.
Yeah, because that part is so important right now.
Some of the victims Gacy could refer to by name, but a lot he just couldn't remember. Gacy states he dug the first 5 graves by himself, and after that he had his employees unknowingly dig trenches so Gacy could have available graves.
Just like little mass graves.
Gacy goes on to say he planned on January of 1979 he was going to fill the entire crawl space with cement, burying the bodies forever. When asked about Robert Pest, Gacy goes on to tell the story. Gacy lured Robert back to his house, murdered Robert by strangulation. Once dead, Gacy admitted to sleeping next to the body that evening and keeping the body until the early hours of December 13th, where he disposed of Robert's body in the river. He kept Robert's body for 2 days. And that wasn't uncommon for Gacy to keep bodies for multiple days before burying them.
I don't want to know why he kept them for 2 days, but I'm sure I can imagine.
Yeah, right. So, remember when I said when Gacy went to the police station covered in mud? On his way to the police station, Gacy's vehicle slid off the road and into a ditch, called a tow truck, after trying for a while to get the vehicle out himself. That was the night he went to dump Robert's body. Early hours of the morning, got slid off the road, tried to get his car out, couldn't, got a tow truck to get it out, went to the police station covered in mud to talk to the lieutenant about the missing boy.
The audacity on this man.
He didn't think he'd get caught. I mean, come on, he said clowns can get away with murder. This man did not think he was going to get caught.
He got sloppy. He started getting real sloppy.
Real sloppy, real quick.
Close.
Yeah. So now we're back to present on December 23rd, the day before Christmas Eve. Gacy was driven to the spot he claimed he dumped Robert's body. He was accompanied by the police, his lawyer, and his older sister. Gacy also said he dumped 4 other bodies here too. Gacy was then driven back home while investigators searched the river. Once back home, Gacy was told by detectives to use orange spray paint in the garage to mark where the bodies were buried, and was also told to draw a map of all the bodies in the crawl space. There were 27 bodies unearthed under the crawl space and 1 under the garage, and 5 in the river. 28 of those bodies have been identified, while 5 bodies have yet to be identified. But in 2011, the case was reopened, and now there's only 2 unidentified bodies. I just wanted to throw that in there.
That's kind of cool.
Which is at some point, it's kind of a whole thing in itself too. At some point I will cover how they were able to identify them. So now with Gacy charged, the trial begins on February 6th, 1980. He was tried in Cook County, where he lived, with a jury from Rockford, Illinois, a town about west, about 20, 30 miles from there. Since there was so much media coverage in Cook County and Des Plaines, at the request of the defense counsel, Gacy spent over 300 hours with doctors at the Menard Correctional Center. This was all before his trial, so like in 1979, all the way up to his trial on the 6th of February. But even with all this, with all those hours spent with the doctors, doing psych eval tests and everything on Gacy, they found he was very much competent to stand trial. But Gacy tried to persuade them and convince the doctors that he had multiple personality disorder. He had 4 personalities. He had the hard worker, the civic-minded contractor, the clown, the active politician. There's 5. Wow, I can't count.
No, you can't, because you're on 4 already.
So he had 5 personalities: the hard worker, the civic-minded contractor, the clown, the active politician, and a police officer Gacy would refer to as Bad Jack. His lawyer had Gacy opt for the insanity plea, but it didn't stick.
No.
I mean, come on, 300 hours and they're saying that you're fine. You're fine to stand trial.
Yeah.
You knew what you were doing.
If he was insane in the slightest bit, they would have figured it out within 300 hours.
Oh, yeah. So, one of the crime scene detectives did testify at Gacy's trial, stating during the autopsies, most of these boys died from asphyxiation, while some died from stab wounds. So 3 of Gacy's victims showed up to the trial to stand witness. Yeah, there was 3 actual victims that Gacy never murdered and just let go.
Oh.
One was Jeffrey Rignall, recalled the abuse from Gacy before throwing up from being so upset and was excused from any other statements.
Oh my goodness.
And the next 2 we've talked about a little bit in the previous episode. So Donald Voorhees was also visibly upset. Donald was able to testify before being asked to step down from being too distraught. And the third of Gacy's victims was Robert Donnelly. He too was visibly distressed as he recalled his abuse. As the closing arguments came, the jury was asked to deliberate. The deliberation took 1 hour and 15 minutes before the jury returned with a verdict. Gacy was found guilty on the following charges: 33 charges of murder and guilty of sexual abuse with a child. 33 of these murders at the time were the most murders in U.S. history. And Gacy was sentenced to death. His execution date was set for June 2nd, 1980.
How much time between his trial and his execution?
So as of right now, I will say his execution's been pushed back a couple times. So from his trial happened in February of 1980.
Okay.
And his execution was set for June of 1980.
Okay.
But Gacy was on death row at Menard Correctional Center for 14 years. He was isolated in his prison cell. This is where Gacy began to paint, depicting things such as himself as Pogo the Clown or Patches the Clown, as well as Christ, birds, skulls, his own home, and John Dillinger. For those of you who don't know, he was an American gangster during the Great Depression.
And let's not forget the infamous dicks for skulls.
Yep. During his time on death row, Gacy tried to appeal his death sentence, but was denied every time. With his execution date, it was pushed back twice, once on to September 29th, 1988, and then finally on October 1993, the state of Illinois set Gacy's final execution date for May 10th, 1994. So from June 6, 1980 to September 29th, 1988, all the way to May 10th, 1994. This man lived for 14 fucking years.
He did. That's...
But I will say...
I know it's super common for prisoners to sit on death row forever, but
I will say, there was a lot of good that came out of Gacy, because a lot of, like, doctors and psychiatrists and just behavioral doctors got to interview the fuck out of this man.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
On the morning of May 9th, 1994, Gacy was granted his last meal. For his last meal, he chose a bucket of KFC chicken, a dozen fried shrimp, French fries, fresh strawberries, and a Diet Coke.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree, but yeah.
Not to derail this and make it take that much longer, but if you could choose your last meal, like if you were on death row, your last meal, what would you choose?
I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, I would probably have to go with, I'd have to go with probably like tacos, like street tacos or something like that, and street corn. Like, I almost want something authentic.
That's
and
fair.
not just like some kind of greasy, like fast food. Like,
yeah. See, I think I'd do like a steak and green beans, which is already like one of my favorite meals.
Okay, yeah.
And I'd probably do like fresh strawberries and stuff like that too. That sounds nice.
Like, yeah.
Definitely cheesecake.
Yes, that would be good. Yeah, some fresh fruit, cheesecake, and my favorite pop. Can I just get like a 12-pack of that and just slam it the fuck down?
Right.
I'm like, I'm dead already. What is it going to do to my body? I don't care if it goes to my hips.
Right. It's not going to get to go to your hips.
Nope, exactly. So, in the early hour of May 10th, 1994, Gacy gave his final words. Can you guess what those words are? No. His final words were, "Kiss my ass." And at 12:58 a.m., Gacy was declared dead after lethal injection.
Yeah, the kiss my ass gives the same energy as the dad in your one story flicking everybody off in the back of the cop car.
Yep, 100%. So that same day, Gacy's brain was removed by Helen Morrison, who interviewed Gacy among other serial killers to isolate common personality traits of violent sociopaths. I am going to cover Helen Morrison at some point. I was going to say, I think
I like Helen.
Like, yeah. She kept his fucking brain.
I'm not surprised by that one bit.
As far as I know from what I read, she still has it. I can't remember if she's alive or not, but as far as I know, she's had his brain.
Amazing.
Once Gacy's brain was removed, Gacy was cremated, and I could not find who, where, what, how.
I'm guessing his sister probably has.
His sister probably does, but there's nothing that I could find that confirms that unless there's a documentary I haven't watched. Because I know there is a documentary, I think it was on A&E, about his sister opening up about his brother, her brother. Which is one I couldn't find. It wasn't streaming anywhere, and I didn't think I couldn't find it on YouTube either.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was something more recent, or I think it was a little more recent, or maybe. But anyways, that is the life and murders of John Wayne Gacy.
Wow. Thank you for that deep dive on that.
Oh, you were so well. I was more than happy to do that. Like I told you, I love John. Clowns scare the fuck out of me, but I love John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah,
not in the weird way, but like
he's 67 minutes into recording.
Fuck
and
yeah, we are.
Finished your story.
We're usually finishing up recording, or we're halfway through my story by this time.
Yeah, we're usually getting closer to being done. So
Hannah, any other thoughts on Mr. John Wayne Gacy?
Honestly, I really don't have that many because there was just so much information.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But I see why like you got docuseries that just break it up. It's like, oh, it's nice that it's just broken up like that.
Yeah, it's a good thing you broke it up into 2 parts.
I'm like, it's too much. That is, if I did it myself, that's an entire episode without you talking.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's like, it was almost 2 hours worth that I had there. So
yeah, thank you again for.
It was great
for doing that. I know it was a lot of hard work for you, and you did a really good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, this is going to just be a long episode.
Very much so.
I have quite a few notes here.
I bet you do.
Because I also did a deep dive.
She sure did.
All right. So, Austin.
Yes.
Are you ready
For?
This week, I am covering the American Sideshow.
Oh my god! I'm so excited.
So...
Oh, I love sideshows.
I just was like, I want to do...
God, it's going to be so loud in the microphone.
It's coming to the end of summer. It's like, I want to do something. I was like, what's, like, spooky but summery? And I was like, the sideshow, the circus. Like, this is the time of year for fairs and circuses and everything. So
yeah, with Renfest here, too.
So we're doing the sideshow.
All right.
In the 1800s, traveling circuses started offering the sideshow along with their main performances. The sideshows usually came at an additional cost and were advertised as dime museums.
Oh, 10 cents.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, dime museums.
So other names included human wonders, human curiosities, auditoriums, spelled ODD, atorium.
Yes, it is.
Or the classic freak show. So
take your pick.
The sideshow usually featured humans and animals who were usually physically different than most people. Mm-hmm. This included people born with physical defects, disabilities, different appearances, and a lot of times people of color.
Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. That I didn't know. Mm-hmm. That's so fucked. Okay.
The sideshow was usually made up of marginalized people who didn't have many other options to make it in the world. Mm-hmm. And the American Sideshow has a dark history of perpetuating racism and generally bad treatment of people who were considered different.
I guess different is very subjective. Like,
yes. Well,
what would you consider different?
Well, think about, like, the 1800s. Literally anything that was slightly different was different.
Like, slightly. Like, I don't like that. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
Bad.
So, the first recorded or documented sideshow was actually in 1738. It featured a woman who was taken from West Africa and exhibited. Oh, no. The advertisement described her as being 4 feet tall, with the body of a woman and the face of an ape.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's so...
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm. Very problematic.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So...
I mean, I get it. It's that time, but still.
It wasn't okay, and it makes us cringe.
Yes, very. Okay, anyways.
So, with our deep dive into the sideshow, we're going to focus a lot on P.T. Barnum.
Okay, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, he's one of the biggest names associated with the American Sideshow. He's mostly known as a showman and a businessman who was not afraid to pass off a hoax as the truth. And he also is known for starting the Barnum and Bailey Circus with James Anthony Bailey. Some believe that he coined the term, "there's a sucker born every minute," but there's no definite proof of that. But once we get into it, you'll understand why.
Okay.
It's thought.
All right.
In 1835, P.T. Barnum started his career as a showman when he bought Joyce Heth, a blind and paralyzed slave woman who was being exhibited at...
Ma'am? Oh. All right, so we're back. All right.
So, in 1835, he started his career as a showman when he bought Joyce Heth, who was a blind and paralyzed slave woman who was being exhibited as George Washington's former nurse, claiming that she was 161 years old.
Oh my God.
At this point, Barnum was located in New York and slavery was outlawed there, but he found a loophole in leasing her for a year.
In whatting her?
Leasing her for a year.
That's the most fucked up loophole I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. She'd be forced to work long days, usually 10 to 12 hours, probably every day.
Yeah.
During her time with Barnum. And only about a year later, in February of 1836, she passed away, thought to be no older than 80 in reality.
It's still pretty old for back then.
Yeah. Gets worse, though.
Oh.
Barnum allowed spectators to come see a live autopsy of her body in a saloon meant to prove her rumored age for a 50-cent admission fee.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's... The smell?
I don't want to... Nope, don't want to think
about it.
In a
saloon? Mm. Ripe.
Gross. Alright, so in 1841, after some struggles gaining footing in show business, Barnum bought the Scudder's American Museum in Manhattan and renamed it the Barnum American Museum.
Naturally.
So Barnum bought the museum after the original buyers, the Peel Museum Company, failed to make their payment. So the next day, he swooped in and bought it.
Just like that. Mm-hmm. All right.
So with the museum, he also got its natural history collection. So, here's...
Why do I feel like natural history collection is going to be one of the most fucked up collections I'm going to hear today?
No, I mean, think like taxidermy. Like, it's
Oh.
like natural history. It was an actual museum
Okay.
that he bought.
Gotcha.
And then he turned it into what he turned it into.
Oh, this was a natural history museum before. And then, okay.
Yep, that's why another museum was trying to buy it.
Gotcha.
Yes, so here's what he did. He decorated the outside of the 5-story building as a large advertisement and added a lighthouse lamp to shine up and down Broadway to attract attention, as well as flags to catch the eye during daytime, and there were also large paintings of animals between the upper-level windows to attract pedestrians to come in.
Full send.
Just the whole thing was an advertisement.
Literally. Man, he is the first spam.
He bought a natural history museum to turn into a palace of oddities and slapped a lighthouse on it to draw attention.
Sounds like Zach Wigglebites.
Yeah, honestly, it kind of does.
Reincarnation?
So, well, Barnum often exaggerated his exhibits in his advertising, but people kept coming back even after seeing it wasn't as advertised.
What? No.
Yep, and...
People this stupid, really?
You just wait.
Okay.
He would also print articles in papers posing as someone claiming his museum and attractions were fake because it made people want to come and see them for themselves. And he banked on people being gullible and ignorant. And boy howdy was that a good investment.
He's just doing a whole reverse psychology thing.
Not even, like, he's just...
Don't do that. It's terrible.
Yeah,
don't go there.
He had marketing in the 1800s down to a T.
I am so glad this man is not alive today. I feel like ads and everything would be so much worse.
So, during its time, Barnum's museum featured exhibits that ranged from educational to strange. Some of the exhibits and things were incredibly reputable and valuable scientifically and historically, and others just weren't and were complete hoaxes. So I have a list of attractions that were featured in the museum during its time. I've got 2 pages of these.
Holy sh...
So we're just going to get
into it. Was he just turnstiling these things through?
He always had something going on.
Oh my god. Okay, let's hear them.
Scientific instruments and modern appliances.
Okay.
Panoramas, dioramas, and cosmoramas, which I had to look those up.
Yeah, please.
Those are perspective pictures of different landmarks, usually, meant to look very realistic. So they're usually done on, like, a very large scale, and with the lighting and everything, it makes it look like you're there, and, like, you could, walk into the painting.
Okay, I see.
Glass blowers. Taxidermists.
Wait. Actual taxidermist or the taxidermist products?
Both, I think.
Okay.
Waxworks, so like wax figures and stuff like that. A menagerie of animals, many that were exotic, and that included beluga whales in the aquarium, which was the first aquarium in the U.S.
Oh. Wait. How big was this aquarium?
Yeah, spoiler alert, it was basically like a big tub of water in the basement.
Oh my god.
So these animals were not treated well, and their living conditions were inhumane, and I want to put a little content warning for later on in the story. There is some animal violence and really unfortunate animal deaths. So.
I hate that we kind of talked about this last night because I know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm not going to say a fucking thing.
Yeah, so next up we have Native Americans performing traditional songs and dances.
Oh, they weren't exhibits or a freak show?
I don't know if they were considered exhibits or if they were there doing it because they genuinely wanted to.
Okay.
An oyster bar.
Ick.
A rooftop strolling garden with a view of the city and hot air balloon rides.
Okay, that sounds kind of fun.
Pretty baby contests.
Ick. No.
And he had like a few different types of contests, like dog shows and stuff like that. But the pretty baby contests were the most popular.
I don't like the way you say that.
That's what they were referred to.
I don't like that in the slightest. That just sounds... Okay.
A flea circus. I wanted to look that up because I wasn't entirely sure what a flea circus is, but it's exactly what I thought it was.
Yes, it is.
So, a flea circus is a circus sideshow attraction in which fleas are attached, or appear to be attached, to miniature carts and other items, and encouraged to perform circus acts within small housing.
Yes, encouraged.
Encouraged. There was a loom worked by a dog.
Okay, that would be fun to watch.
There were phrenologists.
A what?
Phrenologists. Are you familiar with phrenology?
Obviously not.
Okay. It's wild. So, phrenology is a pseudoscience that involves the measurement of bumps on the skull to predict mental traits. It is based on the concept that the brain is the organ of the mind, and that certain brain areas have localized specific functions or modules. So basically they measured skulls to try to figure out what could be wrong with you.
Yeah, because, okay. Yep. We're going to go right past that one.
Yep. A tree trunk that supposedly Jesus' disciples had sat under.
Oh, yeah, I bet. You just had that one, didn't you?
Okay, so it's been pretty tame so far. Are you ready?
Wait, so there's a couple, and you're going to rapid fire some
I'm just continuing to go.
Oh my God, okay.
The rifle range. I
You
have no more information than that.
You had a rifle range?
There was-
No way had a fucking rifle range.
Ned the Learned Seal.
Learned seal? Mm-hmm. What makes him learned seal?
He was very smart as far as I could tell.
The learned seal.
The Learned Seal. We'll talk about it eventually.
Oh, okay.
Dwarfs and giants.
Okay.
Ventriloquists. Mm-hmm. Blackface minstrel shows.
Oh, back up. Did you say blackface minstrel shows?
Minstrel.
Okay. I was like, what the? That's the most fucked up thing I've ever heard, Hannah. Okay, minstrel. Got it.
Yep. Magicians. Grizzly Adams trained bears. Chang and Ang, the Siamese twins, who I heard were very argumentative, not only with each other, but also with Barnum.
Oh. I was like, why do I think he named these two? But
No.
they were, okay, never mind. These are real people.
Yep. And the Fiji Mermaid. And then there was also a theater, which he specifically called the lecture hall so that it sounded more sophisticated, so that middle class and high class folks would be interested in attending when they'd normally never be caught dead in a theater. This time, like, a theater was known to be, like, very risque. It had, like, lady dancers and, like, all of that stuff.
Okay.
So he called it a lecture hall, and it featured educational...
Lecture hall.
It featured educational and family-friendly shows that usually taught good life lessons, as well as some works of Shakespeare.
No, that's surprising.
Uh-huh.
Okay. This isn't him just making a document on, this is actually what happened.
No, it was like, I remember one thing said that, like, a lot of the shows just provided, like, good anecdotes with, like, life lessons.
Oh,
there was one
okay.
specifically about dealing with, like, alcoholism and everything, which was, like, becoming a very rampant thing at the time in working class men.
Right. Yeah.
So it was, and it was specifically meant to be family friendly. It was supposed to be a place where people of all ages could come.
Wow. That just sounds like out
I know,
of character for Barnum.
It's like
That's a whole thing right there.
Yeah. There's a lot, I do cover a lot about Barnum,
Yeah.
but I covered most of what applies to the sideshow.
All right.
So, during the museum's peak, it would be open for 15 hours a day, with up to 15,000 visitors coming through a day.
15,000. That's Jesus. Okay.
Admission was 25 cents. And in the 24 years it was open, there were 38 million people that came through. Do you want to know what the population of the U.S. in 1860 was?
Yeah, let's hear it.
It was under 32 million.
He literally had people all over the world coming to this?
Yeah, he had, like, more than the population of the U.S. come through in the time that it was open.
Oh my God.
Which, I mean, yeah, a lot of these people were repeat
Okay.
people, but as far as a head count of...
Basically, like, everyone went twice.
Mm-hmm. Well, not twice, but...
Am I doing my math wrong? How many?
38
Oh.
and 32 million? Yeah, that's not twice.
No, my dyslexia changed the 8 and the 6 around.
No, got it.
Or the 3 and the 8, sorry. See?
So, yeah, wow. And now my dyslexia just, like, took a screenshot.
Just a quick freeze. Okay, we're back.
Okay. So, at one point, Barnum noticed people were lingering for too long in the museum. So he started posting signs that said, "This way to Egress."
What's egress?
Egress is another word for exit, but most people didn't know this, so they thought they were heading toward another attraction, only to find themselves exiting the building.
God, that's too fucking funny.
I was like, that's genius.
It
I'm not even
is.
mad about it.
Man, some of the seasonal work I've done, if we had that when we're trying to get out of there when it's midnight, would be beautiful.
Beautiful. So, in November of 1864, the Confederate Army of Manhattan tried and ultimately failed at burning down Barnum's museum in their conquest to burn New York City.
Oh.
So, this was basically 6 Confederate soldiers that just were planning on burning the whole of New York City on their own, I guess.
I mean, dream big, I guess.
So, even though that conquest did not work out,
That's one way to put it.
the place still burned down in July of 1865, only less than a year later. And what I saw described as one of the most spectacular fires New York has ever seen.
That sounds like a horrendous way to put it.
Yes. So here's that content warning regarding animals. So during the fire, animals were seen jumping from the windows, and many of them died due to the fire or at the hands of first responders. There were a lot of gruesome details. There's one that I decided I am going to share with you because I did decide that if I had to read it, you have to hear it.
Yep, knew that was coming.
The beluga whales.
Oh no. Wait, whales?
Yeah,
Plural?
There was
I only
two
thought there
of
was
them.
one.
There was 2 of them.
Oh no, this makes it worse.
They boiled to death.
No! I don't like that.
I know.
That's terrible. Oh,
And there's
my heart hurts.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
God.
a lot of other details, but I'm not going to get into it because
Okay.
it's bad. It's bad. So after that, Barnum opened a new museum a few months later, but that one ended up also burning down in March of 1868.
What the fuck?
So after this, Barnum moved on to a stint in politics and then
Okay.
the circus. Honestly, there was so much back and forth and just all sorts of things regarding his career in politics. I was like, we're just not even going to touch it.
That's fine.
So,
We're good. This is not a political show.
yep. So, in 1870, at the age of 60, Barnum established, are you ready for this name?
Established, yes. Okay.
P.T. Barnum's Grand Traveling Museum, Menagerie, Caravan, and Hippodrome, along with William Cameron Coup.
Was the longest winded name taken? Like, fucking
they
Christ.
ran out of words.
Yeah.
So this was a traveling circus, menagerie, and museum of quote-unquote freaks. Then in 1881, James Bailey and James L. Hutchinson joined the mix, and the show was then shortened to Barnum and Bailey's. And this was the first 3-ring circus.
Thank God. Shorten that name. 3-ring circus. Okay.
Barnum persisted through more fires, train disasters.
What's with this man and fires?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Just the unluckiest man alive, it sounds
Apparently,
like.
yeah.
But he was a sneak. Oh, this is just karma getting him.
It must be. So, more fires, train disasters, and multiple other setbacks while trying to grow the circus. And in 1885, Barnum and Bailey parted ways. But a few short years later came back together to create the Barnum and Bailey Greatest Show on Earth, which later became known as the Barnum and Bailey Circus, which toured the world.
all right.
Just like a little fun fact.
Yeah.
Barnum was one of the first circus owners to move his show by train and to own a train for just that, which was the suggestion of Bailey.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, when television became more accessible, the sideshow started to decline since people didn't have to leave their homes to see the wonders of the world, and it was free.
Okay. Yeah.
So, viewing human oddities also became distasteful as the public developed a conscience. And eventually, exhibiting freaks became outlawed in many places. But A lot of performers actually spoke out against these laws, saying that they didn't mind being in the freak show or the sideshow. Plus, it made them good money, and in many cases, it was the only way for them to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in the 1940s, the World of Wonders amazement show was created by Ward Hall. It's still running today, and it's the oldest sideshow in America.
Really? Mm-hmm. Is it still going around the world, or is it like in one specific location?
Well, I did look at their website, and they have a few stops yet in their 2023 tour in a few southern states.
Okay.
And their show features sword swallowers, the strong lady, human blockheads, escape artists, fire eaters, and stage illusions.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to go see.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The sideshow still remains part of pop culture, and there are now more performers within this genre of entertainment than the sideshow has ever seen, with plenty of organizations across the world. Performers even started reviving traditional sideshow acts and arts taught to them by sideshow veterans.
Wow.
Which I thought was super cool to be
That is
passing
really cool.
that down from generations.
Yeah. Taking something that was supposed to be like kind of like evil and for profit, and then they took back over when they protested, and now they're passing it down. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, the sideshow is completely different from what it was and everything, and
Well,
obviously
yeah.
it's not. Yeah, so it's more. Yeah, we could get into the politics of it and everything, but
I mean, it's cool that stuff like this is still going on. I mean, and granted, we are more a accepting society when it comes to disabilities and deformities.
yes,
But to have those talents like these people
and just
have,
differences in general.
that too. I mean, these skills these people have. I mean, that sword swallowing and just like fire eating, I'm like, I die.
It's an art.
It is. It really is.
So, with all of that, on the next episode,
Oh?
I'm going to delve into some of the more famous sideshow performers and freaks and
all right.
some of the historically significant ones. So that's our history of the sideshow and all of that fun stuff, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty, like the Fiji Mermaid and General Tom Thumb, and
I'm interested
all
in this
sorts of other
mermaid and
things.
Tom Thumb. Wait, what? General Tom Thumb? Okay. Yeah, I need to know more.
And Chang and Ang, their story is pretty interesting as well. I'm trying to think of who else. There's so many of them. There's just so many. But
I wonder, I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while since I've seen American Horror Stories Freak Show. And I'm wondering if a lot of these characters that they used in the show, too.
oh, I don't know. I've never watched it.
I have to rewatch that now. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to start tonight. Episode 1 again.
So yeah, on the next episode, tune in to hear about some of the freaks in the freak show.
Freaks in the Freak Show.
They have just some really cool, interesting stories. And I mean, some of them are very unfortunate and sad, especially due to the treatment of the people. But that's part of why we're talking about it.
Absolutely. I love that.
So, as far as our cemetery fun fact,
Yes, cemetery fun fact.
this one's about crows.
Okay.
It's about counting crows.
Oh.
So, 1 crow means bad luck. 2 crows means good luck. 3 crows is for, it just says health. I'm going to assume it means good health.
Okay, yeah.
4 crows, oh, no. Well, yes. So, 3 crows, health. 4 crows, sickness. 5 crows, death.
On my last camping trip, I saw 2 crows fly in front of me when I was looking out at the lake.
Then, according to this, it's good luck. But I have seen a lot of variations of this.
Okay.
So
Well, I'm
I
going to
just wanna
choose to
throw
believe that
out
it's
there.
good luck because
Because we
I
could all
need
use
it.
a little good luck, yeah.
Yep. We sure do. I like how you highlight them like you're redacting them.
Yeah, that way I can keep track of which ones we've covered and everything.
Oh, yeah, you do have a lot in there.
Yeah, because it's... So those are all the ones that we've done in red.
Nice.
So, that was episode 22. And we recorded another 30 minutes after yours.
That's the end of episode 21, Hannah.
21. I said, why did I say 32?
You said 22.
I did?
Yeah, now you just said 32.
Oh my god.
Wow, we know where our limit is, I feel
I'm
like.
EBCB. I need a nap.
EBCB?
EBCB. I'm tired.
IB sleepy?
EB.
EB. I don't know. What is you baby sleepy? Is that what that means?
EBCB.
I don't know what EBCB is. EBCB just means you're sleepy? I don't
This means I'm really sleepy.
EBCB. EBCB. Okay. It sounds like baby talk, and I understand that. I understand that from you. Well, hello, little one. Well, with Ash here to greet us and tell us it's time to get off the microphones. With that, Hannah, I say we see all of our lovely fans next time on episode 22.
Yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Friendly reminder to follow us on social media and wherever you're listening. Feel free to interact with posts. And please rate the show. It's very helpful for us.
Yes, absolutely. The more you interact, the better and more content we can bring. But yes, we will see you all next time on episode 22. Until then,
bye.
Bye. The Bleeding Grave is hosted by Hannah Slavic and Austin Winger.
Music by Hannah Slavic.
You can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
You can listen to The Bleeding Grave on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more.